Welcome back to WagerTalk.com. Saturday college football action. It's the ACC championship game, Florida State and Georgia Tech. Brian, Florida State, they're like a cat with 9 lives. They keep finding a way to win in games that they should lose, and they did it again last week because I don't know how many teams can overcome 4 interceptions, especially early in the game, and still come back and win, but they found a way to win, and obviously the game changed, the momentum changed even with all the bad play when Florida State got the interception return on tip, and it went all the way for a touchdown, because if Florida puts that one in there, there's no shot for Florida State, in my opinion, when they got the turnover in the
No, Florida State had a 2 turnover disadvantage, but that was a 14-point differential right there, possibly. So that made the difference in that game. But you're right. You know, Florida State's one of those teams that the general public, the talking heads, will say, "Hey, this team's undefeated. Why are they not number 1?" The guys out in Vegas who make power ratings, the guys who bet their power ratings, know that this is not one of the top 10 football teams. They're fringe. They're at probably 12, 10, 12, 14, depending on how you rate them. But a lot of it comes down to Florida State is you expect them to win. They have a veteran team that has been able to win these games. So a lot of it comes down to what the line is in these games. This line opened roughly 3.5 were out there. At that point, you're thinking, well, I think Florida State could probably win this game. They've been able to win these games. But now the line's creeping up again, and we saw that last week. They were able to win that game against Florida, but they really, for the most part, they other than early in the game, they were not covering that number and really weren't.
They had their opportunity in the second half. As bad as the hole that they dug in the first half, they did have an opportunity to go up 8 or more. They had a drive settled for the field goal. Then when Florida got the ball back, Florida, with 3 minutes left in the game, were still in their own side of the 50, and it was 4th down, and they had to go for it, and they had all of their timeouts left, Florida did. So if Florida State held them on that 4th down play, they're going to get the ball at the 40, and they're not going to be able to run out the clock because of the time remaining and the timeouts that Florida had. They could have been forced to kick a field goal, which would have been a bad beat for Florida backers that covered that whole game, because it could have ended at 8 when the line was 7.5 most of the week, ended up closing at 7 on game day. Would have been a tough loss for guys that had Florida.
Yeah, I thought Florida State was a little bit conservative, too conservative in that game.
They were. Well, what else are you going to do after Winston throws 4 horrible interceptions? I mean, they weren't like they were great. You know, some of them were great plays. I'll give you that as far as the Florida defender, but some of the throws were, what was he looking at? The coverages, he's like, it's almost like, and I know he's got a lot of things that he should be distracted about outside of the football field because of the things that he's done and the hearing that's going on, you know, within the university on his code of conduct stuff. But you're playing for, you know, a national championship. At some point, you think you can get focused on the game. He looked like a freshman.
Pretty fired up about that. You must have used that side in a contest.
We'll talk about that later, time permitting. It was a situation, but at some point, Brian, the fact that they have played so poorly, do you ever give them credit that maybe this is just a team of destiny that's finding ways to win when they're playing bad? Because at some point, you can't say they're lucky. You know, you can keep saying they're lucky they're still undefeated, but at some point, they're lucky that they are still undefeated, where it's got to be some good play in there, and coaching and belief that we can come back from any score.
Well, that's what I was trying to make early on with the line. If the line's small, you've got to think when it comes down to it at the end of the game, they're going to find a way to win. And you know, when they played Miami, the line was really small, and a lot of people were on Miami. Well, Miami hadn't proven anything, and they'd lost 12 out of 14 games by double digits, and you kind of had the feeling that Florida State was going to win that game, find a way to win that game, and they ended up coming back and doing it. And then everybody starts saying they were very lucky. Maybe this team knows how to win. Problem is, they don't know how to cover spreads.
Yeah. All right. Well, this is my free pick, and Brian, I'm going a different direction, and because we don't know which way this team's going to go, in their Achilles heel all year has been stopping the run, and in comes Georgia Tech. And that's what Georgia Tech does. They run the football. You're going to be facing 60 to 70 carries, a game from this triple option attack. How does Florida State stop that? So your thought process, immediate thought process on a total would be, well, if Georgia Tech's going to run the football and they can't stop the run, the clock's going to, grind away and everything else. The problem is this is a running attack that scores, and it scores quickly. Right. So I don't worry about them chewing up a lot of clock. They don't use the option to run clock. They're using it to score, and Florida State will have trouble stopping the run. But on the flip side, Georgia Tech is going to have trouble stopping the pass. Unless Winston has his head up, again this week, I can't see him being as bad as he was last week. Florida State is going to score on this Georgia Tech offense. I see both teams going up and down the field in this game the way I see it. I see both teams getting into the 30s, and we're looking at a total of 60.5 as we're taping Wednesday morning. I think they score 65 or more in this one, and I'm going to go over the total.
The point you made about Georgia Tech scoring a lot of points, game's going to be in high scoring. I've made a lot of money playing the New Mexicos, the Navies, the Georgia Southern games over because of just what you said. These are teams that are not out there to take time off the clock. They have success. I mean, Georgia Southern's running for 8 yards a carry. That's like passing. Right. But I do want to point out in this game that the Florida State defensive coordinator used to be on Paul Johnson's staff. He was with them for 5 years. He knows how to defend this defense, even though Florida State hasn't played them in 2 years. That is a concern for the over, because even though they haven't gone up against a team like this, and they only have the 1 week to get ready for it, coming off the big Florida game, right, which is a big rivalry, the coaching staff does know how to defend this. How that incorporates into the kids being able to pick it up, that's a different story.
Yeah, the flip side counterpoint to that, because it is only a week to prepare for it, and it's coming off the Florida game. The Florida game was a very physical game, and Florida does run the football also. And the last thing you want to do after a physical game is to be facing a rushing attack for 60 plus. You get into the second half, your body's beat up, making those tackles. You'd rather be defending the pass plays than the running plays. So I think it's going to counterbalance it, and that's why I'm going with the over. Hey guys, we already talked about it in the last video about the weekend all access. Head over to wagertalk.com. We always have it up Thursday through Monday. $69, get all access. Pick your favorite capper. You can get all of his plays for the entire weekend, both college and pro football and basketball as well. Get it all for $69. Take advantage of it. Wagertalk.com. We're going to come right back and head to the NFL. Got a couple good games on Sunday for NFL action up next. Wagertalk.com.
Did you know that?